Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars. We just took a look at the Holley 12-139 drop-in pump assembly for fuel cells. One of the things not included outside of the two fittings is of course going to be the fuel pump relays. So this is from TrickFlow. I've had pretty good luck with the limited things I bought from them, which includes some really nice filters, by the way. And this is part number TFS-25004K. Price on this one is $29.97. It's basically a 30 amp fuel pump wiring kit. The Holley recommended part number for use with their part we just took a look at, it's like $105, which is kind of crazy. Summit Jegs brand, a lot of knockoff brands, you can pick those up for roughly like 19, 20 something dollars. This one was $29.99. It's kind of a middle range. Ron Francis, Painless, they're in the ballpark of the TrickFlow one. One of the things Holley, and this is kind of specific to 12-139 that we just showcased, they maintain use a minimum of 12 gauge wire. They're very adamant about that. A lot of the kits had 16 gauge, some of the cheaper ones sneak in some 18 gauge wire on us. I'm interested to see what this one is like. It came from Summit. The price was $29.97. I just pulled it up on my phone. It was $29.99, which is weird. I saw something else that I got for like some oddball, I think one of the Klein lights. I paid, what was it? 30 or like 78 cents, and then the price there was something totally different, which is kind of strange, but what can you do? So, we'll slice that open. That's some pretty good tape, truth be told. We're going to take a look and see what we've got. Now, one of the things that some people might have against this kit is the fact that it does not use a fuse. It actually uses a circuit breaker. So, color printed instructions. How about that, TrickFlow? TrickFlow Universal Fuel Pump Wire Kit. Let me go ahead and pull this out. You can take a look at the box. I'll read this to you. For best results, mount the relay in close proximity to the electric pump. Route the wires in a manner they don't rub on any sharp edges. Proper terminals and connectors, all connecting points. Secure the relay, included sheet metal screw, really. Use this attachment for the black ground wire if it is making direct contact with the ground, such as chassis or underbody sheet metal. If the relay is attached to plastic or other non-conductive material, be sure to route and secure the black ground wire to a known ground. Circuit breaker should be mounted close to the 12-volt power source. Alright, so first out of the box is the relay. They want that close to the fuel pump, and then of course the circuit breaker, they're going to want it close to the battery. So relay goes by the pump, which is going to be in our tank or in the fuel cell at the back. If you've got your battery relocated to the trunk, it's going to work out really well. If you've got the battery up front, you're going to want to have this closer to the battery. That might be fun figuring out where to mount that. Purple 12 gauge wire. Did you catch that? 12 gauge. That's right. They didn't cut any corners here. They didn't save a few pennies going with 16 or 18 gauge wire. 12 gauge wire is going to go from the relay to the fuel pump's positive connection, as indicated by the pump manufacturer. The 18 gauge wire right here, so this is the difference. Purple is 12 gauge, yellow is 18 gauge. You can clearly see the difference in the jacket size there. 18 gauge yellow wire goes to a switched 12 volt source or independent fuel pump switch. Cut the large 10 gauge wire to the necessary length and attach the wire to a known hot source, such as the battery or the positive lead at the starter solenoid. That's going to be the red wire. So we've got a nice assortment here. 18 on the yellow, red is 10 gauge, the purple is 12 gauge. Attach the remaining length of red wire between the unused side of the circuit breaker and the battery source. Anytime you disconnect a fuel line, you create a potential fire hazard. Highly recommended you observe all fire safety precautions. It's probably just legal jargon there. But this comes pre-wired, basically, which is nice on this end. Again, the relay is going to plug in there. As you can see, we've got 4 leads, black to ground. We've got 18 gauge black, 18 gauge yellow. That's going to be to our switch source. The purple, that is going, again, to the positive side of the pump. and that is 12 gauge, which is what Holley says you have to have. I'm a little skeptical there, but again, I don't like to cut. I don't like to skip corners in cases like this, so hey, this kit was nice, it was a good price, it had the adequately sized wire. A lot of the kits that are cheaper, you're like, man, this is the same thing, what's the problem? Well, it's going to be a situation where you're not getting 10 and 12 gauge wire, you're getting 16 and 18. So I tend to think that would work, especially when you see companies like Ron Francis run that gauge of wire. But like I said, Holley seems adamant that they want 12 gauge going to the pump, and there it is. So it doesn't say exactly the length on this. It's probably not going to be enough, but hopefully it will be. And we're just working with a duster in this case. So also included in the box, I'm never a huge fan. I'm one of the types that prefer the nylon connectors, which oddly enough they do have right there in one of them. They did include the sheet metal screw for the relay, so that's actually kind of cool. You can slap that through, stick it wherever you need to. There is a butt connector, very large ring terminal, a couple of smaller ring terminals, 2 butt connectors actually, smaller red ones. Man, that guy's weed eater's loud. That's absurd. That said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. In this case, everything we've discussed. Let's just break it down real quick. We got the ground wire, we got the battery ground, right? We've got the 12 gauge power wire, which is pretty cool. We're going to have lead 1 of it, and keep in mind they wanted the circuit breaker as close to the power source as possible. So we're going to have the circuit breaker feed in off of our battery, and then we're going to have the same power wire continue from the flip side of the circuit breaker over to the relay. Relay's yellow wire is going to go to switched power. Again, if you've got a fuel pump switch, if you want to add one in, however you want to set that up, that is your switched power essentially. Black out of the relay is going to go to ground, and then the purple is going to go straight to the fuel pump. And then of course, the black out of the fuel pump will handle its ground. So in our case, and this will be specific to this particular installation, the fuel pump is on this bracket, right, that will be in our fuel cell. There's 2 wires coming up out of the top, and we have the red wire, which is the power wire, right? The perk of using the Holley one is I assume everything would be color coordinated. Honestly, it's fairly simple. I don't think we're going to screw it up. But what we want to do here, the red and the purple, that's what we're wanting to connect. So this power wire out of the fuel pump, for the trick flow wiring harness, it's the purple 12 gauge wire, just like Holley wanted. In fact, I don't know that Holley's is 12 gauge. Holley mandates, let me play around with the camera here. Holley mandates, right, that you have 12 gauge power wire. Man, this is just... Come on, focus. Bring it back out. Right there, okay? This is from Trick Flow. This is their power wire through the circuit breaker. It's 10 gauge, okay? We drop down, we got 12 gauge, okay? That's the purple jacket. The power wire coming off of the Holley pump is not 12 gauge. I'm sorry, it is not. I would say it's probably 16 gauge. We know the black and the yellow here are 18. I'm pretty sure this is 16 gauge wire coming off their pump. That wouldn't be an issue. And again, like I said, this is something Ron Francis, his fuel pump relay kit is 16. I trust what they do. I think Painless was also 16. Theirs might have been 14. One of the two had a slightly bigger, but still not 12 gauge. Now the ground wire, I'm fine. That can be 16, it can be 18, whatever. We're going to ground the pump, right? Coming out though, once again, let me pull these directions in. And, as you can see, use a minimum of 12 gauge wire. I don't know, maybe they don't understand the way wire gauge operates, right? Where the bigger number is a smaller wire type of a thing. I don't know. But this is not 12 gauge. So that's a little disappointing when that's what they mandate. Nonetheless, we basically scored big with the Trick Flow kit. At 30 bucks, we got a pretty quality piece. The downside, again, if it is considered a downside to anyone, would be that it's not fused, it's a circuit breaker. So most people that I know don't have circuit breakers. You know, like everyone has fuses laying around the shop. Not everyone has circuit breakers. Keep that in mind, and might want to plan accordingly. But If we bring this down, 18 gauge, 18 gauge, 10 gauge power, which is phenomenal, and then 12 gauge. If we put this side by side, this is essentially a connection we will have to make, and we will be going from 12 to what I believe would be 16 on the Holley. So trick flow outperforms the wiring coming out of there, which is a little bizarre since Holley was the one that insisted you have 12 gauge wire, and then they don't even have 12 gauge wire coming out. I don't understand the logic there. To me, it should be uniform if it's that big of a deal, if you're that concerned about voltage. But we've got the relay, we got the circuit breaker, and like I said, to walk you through it one more time, in our application, coming out of the fuel cell with this unit from Holley, the black goes to ground for the pump. The red wire is going to marry into the purple wire on this trick flow relay, so that connection will happen. The black wire is going to be grounded. The yellow wire is our switch, and then the red wire is our power wire. One end is going to go to the circuit breaker, the other end jumps off the circuit breaker and goes to the battery. So that's that in a nutshell. It's not quite that simple, yet it is, if that makes any sense. Kind of like with all things electrical, right? That's it. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with this kit for the price, because for roughly 19 to 25-ish, you get basically the same thing, but it's with an inferior wire. Having a 10 gauge power wire, 12 gauge wire to the pump, that's where we're getting the bang for the buck out of this kit. Now again, if I feel like a lot of people aren't going to be concerned about the wire gauge more so than, oh, what the hell, a circuit breaker, I don't want that, give me a fuse. If that's the case, you can go a different route, but for me personally, I liked this kit. We could wire a fuse in place. I mean, we don't have to kid ourselves, but this is a pretty good value for the money is what I'm getting at. It's not the most expensive. Holley's, again, is 105 bucks. I'm not quite sure how it differentiates itself from, say, the $20 Jegs or Summit version, but this one comes in just under 30. We get everything we need. It is a circuit breaker, but we have superior wires. We got a 10 gauge power, and we got 12 gauge to the pump. So that's what Holley says they want, and then their pump comes out with, I'm pretty sure, 16 gauge. So that said, this is a pretty good deal in my opinion. The only issue, again, circuit breaker versus fuse, that's for you to decide. And we won't really know if we have enough wire until we install it. I'm optimistic that we will. We'll see how it pans out. But that's it. The battery light is flashing. I've done a ton of recording. This is all with the brand new camera. Hopefully it turns out good. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Help us fight the system here on YouTube. Follow Lone Star Mopars on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, and more importantly, LoneStarMopars.com/forum. We would love to have you join us there. That's it. It's about time for me to wrap up the day, get inside, get some stuff done in there, and I will catch you back here for more action from the shop.